And there we go. So welcome to this live stream and live masterclass where the topic is the playbook that is replacing cold outbound. My name is Harold. I'm the founder of Your Ventures, and with me today I have Lindsay. And we're going to give you a bit of an introduction in a bit, but just to make sure that everything is working smoothly and stuff like that, if you guys can comment in the comments field that you guys can hear, at least hear me and hear Lindsay as well, that is going to just give us a thumbs up that we can really get started. So, and this is where the fun begins in terms of the lag, the delay. I can see we are starting to pick up and have more people join, so that's amazing. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm checking LinkedIn too.
Yeah, just some housekeeping before we get into it. So while we also start, I assume that people can hear us. That is basically, yeah, it seems like there is sound. So thumbs up, loud and clear, amazing. So now, as you guys probably then noticed by now, there is a bit of a lag. So if you guys see us just going back and forth or bouncing, then that is because we're waiting to see the comments field. So I think without further ado, let's dive into it. So the one thing that you guys will learn today and that we're going to cover is that most likely, if you are not seeing the returns that you want based on the marketing and the things that you do, then that is going to be often not a lead generation issue, because you do probably a lot of different marketing activities or strategies and tactics, but it's often a infrastructural problem that makes you not hit the growth goals that you want to hit. And the key here is, this is the result, or this is the consequence, or really the root cause for not getting something to perform to the degree that you want. And we're going to address this. Just one quick one. Lindsay, I'm going to mute you while I'm still speaking, and then we're going to unmute and mute so that we can't, let's say, clutter the voice. So this is the key thing. This is the one thing that we're going to cover in this session, and this is going to be based on what I've seen since all the way back in 2011, when I started on my personal journey in terms of getting into digital marketing, lead generation, digital sales, and growing companies using automations all the way back then. There's a lot that has changed, and what we're going to give you in this session is the key thing that is driving results now in 2026, and that is, as the title says, replacing the typical cold outbound. So I'm going to start by giving a question to you guys, and that is, which of these paths or options do you want to go with? Option one, you do more and more and more strategies and tactics, and you try new things, and you add on new things on top, and you end up with very, very little at the bottom, because everything is just falls through the cracks of the bucket that you have, meaning you go with a leaky bucket. Option two is you patch that leaky bucket. You can reduce the amount of strategies, tactics, and things you do, save more time, spend that time building the business instead of being in the business, and getting even more at the bottom. So I would like to see what you guys comment. If you want option one, comment the number one. If you want option two, comment number two. Just a funny thing to start off with, because I think we all agree that there is one obvious choice of these two. I see there's starting to come in some comments. Also, just to highlight this, is we will have a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, we will get to those at the end. We might cover a couple during the session, but we'll also do a recording of this. So everyone that has attended will receive the recording after this, so that you can actually watch through it. I see a couple of people. Option three, fixing the bucket, use all tools. Good counter, Marcus. I think that's a funny thing. Like, it's, of course, you want more volume, and the question is, where do you start? And patching the bucket is the first step, and then we can add on more things on top of it. So see more and more people adding into here. So to then continue, we are going to cover three main things during today's session. The first one is how we, as now small firms, can compete with, as David competed with Goliath all the way back in terms of being a small fish and competing with the big ones. Because there are a thing that has changed that we're going to cover, how you as a small firm now with the power of AI can build something that previously wasn't feasible for you to do, simply due to the fact that there are systems that require a immense manpower to do them. That's the first thing that we're going to cover. The second thing we're going to cover is the process of identifying your ICP and doing deep research about them. Because most often, the way that your lead generation starts working, the way that your conversions start going through, and the way that you can really scale something is that you truly know what your audience is looking for, and you use that as context to shape how you do your narrative, how you do your lead gen, what do you say, what do you lead with, and all of these things. And we're actually going to go through and do an exercise on this topic in this session. To continue, the third and final thing that we're going to go through is really how you can get started today. And we're going to give you something at the very end that gives you a very, very good option in terms of identifying this is what you should start with, and actually give you a bit of a kickstart doing those things. So there's one thing that I also want to highlight, and that is throughout this session, we are going to cover a couple of prompts. We're going to go through and actually do things. And these prompts are something that we want to share with you guys. And if you look in the comments field now, we are pasting a link. I'm sending a link now in the chat, which allows you to go to this page, just add in your name, email, and phone number, and then we're going to send you all of the prompts that we're going to go through in this session and the resources for this session. And we're going to send that in about 1.5 hours, so a bit after we wrap up the event, and then you can get those and you have them in email and you have access to everything. The reason why we're doing it that way is because we don't want you to go off and lose the things that we're going to cover, so that you can just go in, sign up, get those after the event, and then you're done. And then you can focus on what we're actually going to cover. So just as a highlight to that, if it's not a link, just mark the text, copy and send, and open it in the browser, and then you can do that. If you're on mobile, you might need to leave LinkedIn a bit, but hopefully you get back. So that's the first thing I want to go through. The next one is, as briefly mentioned, we are going to do a Q&A at the very end where you can ask your questions. Last time we had this, we got a bunch of questions that we spent and went through. We are going to try our best to keep this within around a 70 minutes, 60, 70 minutes from now. It might stretch a bit depending on the questions that you guys have. And if we need to spend longer because you guys have a huge list and a long list of questions, we're going to do that. But we do have a hard stop in 1 hour and 20 minutes from now. But just giving you the heads up that we will have time to ask questions at the end. And I think that is going to be the segue to leave Lindsay with the word and get into it.
Thanks, Harold. You can hear me okay? Yes. So we're going to start off on why you're here. You're in trouble. That's right. I'm a mom, so if I say this at home, usually there is whining and blaming, but not today. We're all adults here. You guys know what you did, and that is that you depended on word of mouth, referrals, and growing your business. And I think, Harold, I'm going to just depend on you to help me with the slides. Yes, referrals, word of mouth, and outbound. That's what you relied on to grow your business. And I think that's why most of you are here today. You see that there is an issue with that. It's not scalable, and you have probably fallen into a trap or two. Perhaps the new marketing attempts aren't working. Your revenue has been skipping or going sideways, just not going in the right direction. Your pipeline isn't converting to high quality leads, and the outbound isn't working. Or maybe it's that the growth is way too dependent on you and not scalable. And marketing is just taking too long. Therefore, it's hard to tell if it's working or garnering any results at all. You're probably falling into one or more of those traps, and we are going to explain to you why that's happening and why it's so important to adopt a new playbook. Because really, what you want is you want to generate high quality leads and you want to create long term gains. So, what we see time and time again is that this isn't your strategy. Okay. I've been in sales and marketing for 20 years. I know there's a lot of tactics and they could all work. This playbook though is about creating leads that last. And part of what you need to do that is have an infrastructure behind the strategy, an infrastructure that's going to support your lead gen strategy. So let's talk about what's going on here. We've drawn this graphic out and I think this looks familiar, right? You start here, point A, and things are going along well. Your revenue is growing, you're doing word of mouth, referrals, maybe some outbound. It's going in the right direction. But suddenly, something happens. You hit a stalling point. So you say, okay, let me just throw some new fuel at the fire. Maybe you're trying LinkedIn. Maybe you're trying paid ad, agencies, cold email. You're just throwing it all at the wall, seeing what sticks, but you're having mixed results. Nothing's really going in the direction that it should. And you come to this impasse, right? You're wondering, okay, is this going to be my saving grace and things are finally going to start looking up from here, or is everything just going to implode and tank, right? So this is what's going on. All right, it's not the tactics that are faulting. Any tactic can really work. You could be doing Meta, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, emailing, can all generate attention. These strategies, the channels, they can all work. So that's really not the issue. The issue of what's going on is the infrastructure. And what I mean by that is you need to know how to handle the leads. You need to know how to segment them, where to send them, who's responsible for which step, and then putting all of that into a process that's sustainable and repeatable. That's creating an infrastructure for you to support your lead flow. And there's two key variables behind this. One, trust. The second is timing. Both of these are key, and if either of those are broken, then you're going to see an issue in your leads and the quality of your leads. So let's go into trust. You're doing a lot of things to generate attention, right? That might be calling, that might be emailing, LinkedIn posts, and you need to think about these actions that I'm taking to generate leads. They're doing one of two things. You're either increasing your trust or you're decreasing it. And if you're decreasing trust, then you're hurting your chances of getting high quality leads. So let's take, for example, if you're doing cold email to people that have never heard of you, that's probably decreasing your trust. Okay, so the second factor I wanted to talk about is timing. So in this large circle, you have your entire universe or your addressable market, right? And you can't treat the entire universe the same as this smaller segment, let's call it the 5%, that are ready to buy or within a buying window. When you're treating them the same, you're getting the timing wrong, and you're forcing them to make a decision that they're just not ready for. So what you need to do is you need to think about, okay, how can I build an infrastructure so that I'm visible, it builds trust, and that they see, know, and like me, so that when they do move into that buying window, they think of you and they're ready to go forward. So this is really about building an infrastructure and content that can last long term. So think about it for like 18 months. And if you're wondering, oh gosh, how do I create content for 18 months? I have hard enough time creating one lead magnet. Well, we are going to show you how we work with clients to do that quickly, scalably. And so just stick around into the end to see how that works. We'll do a demonstration. Okay, one more piece I want to talk about is this timeline. So you have a timeline. Think about it like this. So instead of showing it in the circles, we'll show it in the timeline or continuum. You have your 5%, they're ready to buy, they're ready to go to a sales conversation. But the other 95% that aren't ready, you need to treat them appropriately. You need to be giving them value, building that trust, giving them content so that as they move along this line towards the right, then they think of you, they understand you and they've seen you, and then you're hitting the timing right. You're capturing that window. And that's what's going to set you up for success when you're there at the right time and you're visible and you're treating them with respect by providing value. Okay. This is where I'm just really excited. We're going to get into it today. You're here because you say, yes, I identify with this problem. I know I'm in trouble. Now tell me what to do. Give me the playbook. Well, that's what in a moment Harold is going to dive into. But before that, I am just going to do a quick intro. I'm Lindsay Jew. I have been in sales and marketing for 20 years, which means I've seen a whole evolution of marketing tactics. It's a lot out there, but you want something that's built to last. That's why you're here. I've led growth in many different areas, including fintech, tech, hedge funds, and startups. And at Burrow, I am a growth strategist, which means that my mission is really to just help you succeed. So with that, I am going to pass the mic back to Harold.
So hopefully at this point, you've, let's say, understood that there is a missing piece. There are two variables that you want to get right when you build your marketing and especially go-to-market strategy, and that is trust and timing. And very quickly about me, I became a founder when I was 16. Like even 5 years prior or before that, at 11, that's when I really started to get into, okay, what is the digital space all about? Like playing video games all day, got an ultimatum, learned how to code. And for the past 15 years, I've been in the entire space of digital growth. So anything from paid ads, organic, content, automations, using AI now for this in the past 4.5, 5 years, and how to do everything really under the heavens when it comes to using the digital space to grow a company. And over that period, I've helped hundreds of companies. I've taught thousands of people how to build proper marketing structure, marketing strategies, tactics, implement them, automate things, almost anything. So what we're giving you today is a really distilled version of what we see work. So you're not going to get all of the say unnecessary things. What we've done is that we've really distilled it down to the core components that is necessary for you to understand, but also implement in your company. And I believe that I was among one of the first, let's say, group to really start doing outbound on LinkedIn in a standardized or automated fashion. Because I started with that years ago, like more than 8 years ago. There was no automation tool doing outbound on LinkedIn back then. And there's a lot of things that has changed, and we're going to touch upon those things as well. And a bit for me, like I really like tinkering with things, and you're going to see that throughout in terms of building the strategies, building the tools and the systems to really make you succeed online. So with that, there's one thing that I want to start with, and that is the larger firms like McKinsey, BCG, and the larger consultancy firms, they really cracked the code and understood something really long time ago. That smaller companies like you guys and us, because we're not the biggest company, we didn't, let's say, really crack the code for this because we didn't have the bandwidth for it. And they understood this equation, that exposure plus something valuable in a repeating fashion over time compounds into trust. So the key thing here is that large enterprises did this through a huge network. they had content distribution machines through PR firms, agreements, subsidiaries, and networks and alumni. They had alumni networks, they had thought leadership engines, and they had event ecosystems. They had a plenty of resources, infrastructure, and systems to ensure that they could get exposure for their firm, provide something that was valuable, and do that time and time and time again. And those things compound to trust. And this previously at this scale was not possible for a smaller firm, because you need to have a content team, you need to have a marketing team, you need to have a graphic team, you need to have a sales team, you need to have a partnership networking team, you need to have all of these things. That has changed. Now, what you saw, and probably if you've heard it, or if you haven't, Anthropic, that has Claude, one of the best LLMs and AIs out there, they were running on a one-person marketing team up until very, very recently. That is because AI has changed the playing field. AI has allowed us now to be able to set up something that previously took years and huge headcount, and set up the same thing to engineer trust in the same way as the large companies has done for decades. And that system is what we're going to cover today. Because the thing that has changed is access. We can go through and do the same things now at scale that we previously weren't able to. So there are 3 layers to this. The first one is, obviously, you need to have your lead generation in order. And the key thing there is that could be anything. As Lindsay mentioned earlier as well, any tactic can work. Like your outbound can work in the sense of LinkedIn outbound. It could work with just dialing and cold calling. It could work with cold email, depending on, as Marcus mentioned in the comments, like it's not legal to do cold emailing in Germany. And you have also in Europe in terms of GDPR. So there are restrictions and regulation that makes certain tactics not as viable anymore for you as a company. But lead gen is the first thing you need to sort. There's plenty of ways of doing it. The next thing you need to sort is, what do you do with the leads that you generate? And that's where we have what we call the trust flywheel. And that is basically patching the leaky bucket, because everyone generates leads and they focus on, I have a 10 to maybe 20 days window where I need to convert them. But what happens if you don't convert them? And as Lindsay mentioned as well, there's a very little percentage that is able to buy something now, or willing to buy something now, or are gonna buy something right now. The rest is not. And how large a percentage do you believe is going to be willing to pay and buy something in the next 20 days of everyone that you reach? Probably not too many. So you need to have a way to handle those. And the next one is, you need to have a way to systematically and engineer the expansion of your audience and market that you're able to convert. So we're going to go into each of these. And just to give you a bit of a highlight to this, we did this in 2025, and the number speaks for himself. In 2025, we posted on LinkedIn 1,254 times. That yielded more than 15 million impressions for us, but also 184,000 comments and 65,000 leads. My profile alone got just shy of 4 million impressions from February last year to February this year. And that was just my profile. We have 20 of those. So this actually works. But the key thing here is that you don't need 65,000 leads. Maybe just 100 qualified leads is going to change the world for you. Maybe you just get 100 a week. The key thing here is that you need a system to systematically drive lead flow, a way to handle them, and then a way to convert them. I like to say you have the 3 pillars: lead generation, lead nurturing, and lead conversion. But everyone speaks just about lead generation. And I had someone talk about this and comment on a post that I did earlier today about just that thing. Like, they talk with a client, everyone is hammering them with go-to-market lead gen, but no one is talking about what do you do with those leads. And that's the thing that is the missing piece. So this is how it actually works. And this is how I usually recommend it for companies when I consult with companies and when companies come to us and asking for advice. The first thing is, you should start posting on LinkedIn. I can't stress this enough. But what should you post about on LinkedIn? We're going to get to that. But the core thing is, you need to post. The thing that you usually post is something of value. Then you get someone to comment on it. Let's say that you get 47 people to comment on it. What happens if those 47 got nurtured, over the next 90 days, they kept getting more value. So that you can then categorize them on, over those 47, you have this segment that are cold, they haven't engaged with anything. You have those that are warm, that have engaged with some, and then you have those that are hot, which are super engaged. Where the system then would take those that are super engaged, flag them, and you can follow them up manually, or follow them automatically, or have your sales team follow them up. The key thing is you need to have something of an order of a process to handle a couple of things. You want to toss out bait, something that can get people to come to you. You need a way to gauge whether they're engaged or not. And you want to follow up those who are engaged. Everyone talks about signals. So you need to have sixth sense, you need to have RB2B, you need to have Triggerfy, you need to have a lot of systems to just identify who's doing things on the web, like who's visiting your website, who's commenting on your competitors, who's commenting on yours, all of those things. Those are nice to have. The thing that you want to have is you want to have a system that tracks and segments everyone that engages with you, your content, your company, because that is what truly is the intent with what you have. Everyone talks about different things, but this is the thing that you want to have. And this doesn't need to be super complex. The thing here is that when you're attracting leads, and if we take those 47, for us that was 65,000 in 2025 alone. And there were a very low percentage that really got into that hot category. But when we had calls with them, what the sentiment usually was, please tell me that what you guys are doing can help my company. We got that. We got other people saying, I know exactly what you guys are doing. I like it. I want it. Can it work? And paraphrasing internal people in the company is that this is too easy. Like people are like already just coming saying, I want this. And that changes the entire dynamic. But of those that are not in that category, that the system hasn't flagged, they stay in the system and they keep getting nurtured over the next 3 to 6+ months when they are ready, getting into that hot category, and then you follow up and then you convert them. So that is the core essence of this. As Yula commented, these lead magnet giveaway posts can come off as spammy, and many B2B decision makers are turned off by that. They want authentic content. That's true. It's just one way of doing it. The question as well is, how do you actually do them? And the essence is, if you want to avoid being seen as spammy, the question is, what is it that you're spamming with? And I would actually combat that. I would be confident being spammy all day if the things that I actually provide are tangible, valuable, and I know that it will actually help you. If you find me to be spammy, if I keep on giving you things free, the question is, what do you want to do with that? And personally, I would be confident to do and comfortable doing that, because what I do and what's shaping all of my marketing strategy and our strategy and what I recommend for people is lead with value first. The mechanism of getting people to engage with that and capture leads, that can be different, and that can be done in a lot of different ways. But doing the posts, and the issue that I see with LinkedIn and doing these types of posts on LinkedIn is that a lot of people don't follow through. They do the post, they say that they're going to send something, and they never do it. And that is one of the things that also has deteriorated trust in this mechanism. So it's so important to do it right. And there's no one really talking about this at all. But I understand the sentiment that it's spammy. The question is, if it's proper value, it's truly valuable, it helps, it's tangible, posting about it, you can give it away for free as well. And you can tag people and run retargeting in other ways. So there's plenty of ways to do this. So there are 3 things you need to do and need to have in place to start doing this. You need to first have your ICP defined. So what you can do over there, and what we often do, is that we reverse engineer your ICP based on the offering that you have. What is it that you sell? What's your solution? What's the product? What's the service? And what does it do for someone? And then based on that, we identify who the target audience and the ICP is. Maybe you have that already, which is amazing, but this is the first thing. The next thing is you need to do more research into your ICP, like a deeper audience research and analysis. And this is basically looking at, how does the audience talk about their problems online? What are the key things that are occurring? What other solutions are there to this? And what's the gap in the market where the audience, their itch isn't fully scratched? And the last thing you need to have as the initial 3, let's say what we call the starter pack, is have your offer memo. This is a simple memo or in detail memo describing the key offer that you have. What is it? What's unique with it? What's itch does it scratch? What's the job that it does? What's the prerequisites? All of those things, so that it's super crystal clear what it is that the audience will get from your offer. And with these 3, what you then do is that these are the ground, it's a context, it's a starter pack for using AI to using the tools that you have at your disposal to automate absolutely everything. So how this works is that with these 3, you're able to shape not only the resource and the lead magnet that you create or the educational piece of assets, you're able to create your post, you're able to handle the comments, you're able to build the trust flywheel. So the content that keeps on nurturing and retargeting your audience of everyone that has engaged. And it's also the thing that ensures that you can categorize people into the cold, warm, and hot segment and how to follow them up. So there's one thing I want to also address, and that is most go-to-market strategies are like a campaign. They have a start point and they have an end point. This is not that. What we're trying to achieve with the strategy and the system that we recommend you to do is see this as a flywheel, see this as something that loops. So instead of having just a certain amount of leads every single month that you reach out to and basically burn through, like let's say that you have 100 leads that you reach out to a week and you burn through them, and you go from the end of the week to starting at 0 the next week. What you want to do instead is that by patching the bucket, by having a way to nurture and retarget your leads over time, you're able to then figure out that you're able to fill the bucket. It becomes more and more and more and more, simply due to the fact that you keep on providing value. So let's say that you in month 1 get 50 leads. Month 3 you have 150. Then at month 6 you have 300. But since you're nurturing them, you have a larger percentage of those that are ready to buy because you keep showing up. Because in the next 12 months, more people will hit that timing window and they're ready for something. They want something and they're willing to actually buy something. They're not just browsing randomly online or not even browsing. They are browsing. So the next thing is you need to look at this as something that loops. If you approach this as a campaign, then you're going to have a leaky bucket because campaign ends. You don't want something to end. I'm looking at the comments field and I see that a couple of comments are here in terms of trying the posts. The key thing here is you need to do them in the right way. We can go way more into the how to make the LinkedIn post work in terms of how the algorithm works, how to quote unquote game it and make sure that your posts actually perform. But we're going to step and go into the next step. So the thing that I actually want to do is I want to go through a mapping of an ICP and show you a report that we have a custom GPT to actually produce. So one thing again is, as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to send out the prompts for the mapping the ICP, audience research, and the offer memo after this session. And if you click the link that I'm going to send again in the chat, you can then save this and get these after we end. So it should come in the chat now. Now, the thing that I want to go through in terms of this is, and also when you submit that, you will get to this page where Lindsay has a bit of a video for you in terms of how you're going to get it, where you're going to find it, but also that if you already know this far in the session that, okay, I want to speak with you guys more about this, you want to speak with us on giving recommendations for how to just do what I've covered so far. After also you've opted in to get that starter pack after the session, you have the option to book a time with Lindsay as well to give you recommendations on how to do the things that we've covered so far. But we want to go into mapping our ICP. And there are 3 questions I want you to write down. First off, I want you to, and do this on in notes or on your computer because you want to reuse this afterwards and save them to when you get the prompt and the pack after the event. So the first thing is, what is it that you sell? I want you to write that down. And I'm also curious if anyone is willing to comment in the comments field what they actually sell. Just one sentence is enough. If you do 2, that's generous, but I might actually go ahead and give you a couple of ideas on the spot if you were to comment in the comments field for this. But what do you sell is the number 1. So I'm going to give you some time to write that down, because we actually want to go in and do something with it. So I'm going to give you a bit more time in terms of writing down what you sell. Just a question, Caroline. Don't you use Sales Navigator? Yes, we use Sales Navigator. The question is, what do you use it for? Like, you can use it for a lot of different things. If you want to run outbound using Sales Navigator, and having Sales Navigator is a good thing in terms of just having a larger quota on actions you can do a day. So connection requests, emails, all of these things. It's also the best thing in terms of just finding prospects as the raw search and the raw export of a segment search. To continue, number 2 that I want you to write down is, what's your USP? What is it that makes your company different from everyone else, from your competitors, stuff like that. And just to cover number 1 and 2, for us, what we do is that we build a system that we're now teaching you guys. But we're teaching it so that you can go educated from this session to know more about, okay, what is it that you guys can do. Number 2, what makes us different is that we have everything AI enabled and AI powered. And also we're doing it in a way where you not have a leaky bucket, but you have a way to actually over time nurture your leads so that when they enter a buying window, you're there. So a couple of comments are comment, smart card for authentication and much more. Advise owners on how to earn higher profits for less hours. A growth system that unlocks psychological behavior for B2C marketing. So there's a bit of a different variety in what you guys are doing. So that's good. Now, the next thing that I want you guys to write down is, what's the outcome what you do delivers? Like, what's the job that it does? And just to give you guys some context to this, a lot of companies and people I've consulted over the years, when they address marketing, they're like, okay, my product. It's my product that I want to sell. It's a product that I want to market and pitch all the time. But that's what turns marketing into cringy things. Because if I were to say, this product on marketing is the best thing since sliced bread, and it's the only thing I say, you will get sick and tired of it. The thing that makes you interested in something and really makes marketing work is that I'm not directly addressing the product that I sell or the service I sell. I talk about the thing that it does. So for you guys, it's a question of, what is the job that your product actually does? Does it and this is also tied to the 2 main reasons someone buys something. There's really 3 if you're thinking about consumers as well. The first one is getting more revenue or getting a higher result, getting a better outcome. The second is risk reduction. So I want to reduce the risk that I'm taking on me. That could be reducing cost. It could be reducing risk of something bad happening. It could be compliance. It could be a lot of different things. And then the third one, which is a bit of an oddball that comes into the mix as well, is nostalgia or any sort of emotional appeal, in the sense that I want this for emotional reasons, not rational reasons. Even if we as human beings, we buy with emotions and we rationalize afterwards. So I want you to map those 3 things down. And I just want a quick one, like type a okay or a thumbs up, something like that in the chat if you've written down these 3 things. I just want to check whether you guys have done it so that I can move on to the next step that I wanted to cover. I see a couple of you guys have also commented what you guys do. So that's interesting. There's a variety here, but it seems like everyone here addresses B2B in some shape or form. William, your ICP mapper is amazing. I appreciate that, William. So if someone were to comment that they have completed it, that's amazing. Then we can move on. This is, again, a bit of the lag. But I'm actually going to go into this now, and that is, we have a custom GPT that we have created that we are going to send you guys after the event, which is going to help you guys go through and define your audience. So I'm going to share my screen and go through this with you guys. So share screen, ICP mapper. Let's do, I think this is the right, remove that at the stage. Here we go. So there is one thing, and that is you're going to get access to this after the event. And as William highlighted, the ICP mapper is amazing. I appreciate that. This is basically a super simple tool, because one of the things that we look at all the time is what's the process that we go through manually, and we emulate that with AI and using prompts. So what this is going to allow you to do is type in the what is it that you sell, what makes you different, and what's the outcome, and it's going to give you a report. And it's going to give you a fairly elaborate report. And you're going to see in a bit as well why creating this report is so important for you in terms of really using AI for everything, but not making it produce horrible stuff. So in here, what you're going to get in the ICP report is it's going to define your offer, the USP, and the outcome, just to have that as, okay, this is the baseline. The next thing that it's going to do is that it's going to deconstruct your offer. So the pain that it addresses, it's going to talk about the urgency triggers for it, the decision authority in terms of, okay, what's the audience is, in terms of, okay, who they are, what it actually often replaces, or what type of solutions and products your specific offering is replacing. And then it's going to go into ICPs. And in this case, it created 5 different ICP segments. Because your ICP, if you talk widely, that's not an ICP. That's a broad brush of your audience. You want to be super specific, because there are segments that are more interested and want and need what you have at a way higher rate than others. And you want to be super specific, because if you're specific, you can create something that is tailored to them and not something that is super broad and not appeal to anyone. So audience 1 in this one is founder-led B2B service firms hitting a referral ceiling. And it goes into a lot of detail. The company profile, so everything from vertical, industry, company stage, headcount, where they're located, the tool stack, and then it also goes into decision maker. And the decision maker goes into everything, like the primary decision maker, its seniority, the tenure, the background, the reality, the psychological profile. Because one thing that you need to think about is, how does my ICP think? What is it that triggers them? What is it that engages them? What makes them, let's say, fire up and get engaged and not? And that's a psychological thing that is super important to crack. And there's a lot of other things. Pain and urgency is another thing in terms of why do they have, or what pain do they have, and what makes them have urgency to actually make a decision with something like the things that you're offering, and a score. And then it goes through segment 2, it goes through segment 3, segment 4, segment 5, and after all of that, it gives you a ranking, because it ranks every ICP segment that is defined and derived from your offering. And you get a pain intensity, budget, decision speed, the best channel, the proof timeline, and a score. And it ranks the ICP segments that you have so that you can see, okay, which ones should you focus on. And it gives you recommendations based on what we have seen, what we have built in marketing strategies, and also what makes it more easy for you to actually reach them and build a system and tactic that can actually, you have control of the volume. So here you then have a recommendation, the reason for it, and how you should do it. And this is the initial report that you're going to get from the ICP mapper. From there, you can go ahead and do a lot of different things. Salvatore, just to give you a bit of a heads up for this, I'm going to add this link now to the chat. I'm going to just send that on LinkedIn, just send that to you in the chat, because that is where you can get it. So we're going to send everything like this out to you on email after the event, so that you can spend the time in the event listening in and going, seeing everything that we're going to cover. So when you sign up, you get the ICP mapper, but you're also getting the audience researcher process that we have, which is really digging into the depth of the audience and more the psychology and the things that really makes them, let's say, tick. And then the offer memo in terms of crafting something so that you have what we call the starter pack, which is used for absolutely everything else using AI to craft all of your content and doing it in the proper way and not just having garbage being spit out. So I'm going to then go back to stage. So you guys are going to get that prompt linked to the ICP mapper after the event if you go in here and submit it. Another way of actually going through it is that you can comment down below as well, because we have more things. We have the audience researcher, we have the offer memo. If you follow me and Bureau for a while, you know that we have a lot of other things as well. But this is what we want to start with. The ICP mapper, identifying your ICP segments, step 1. Step 2, research each of them at a way deeper degree, and then craft the offer memo so that you have those 3 contextual pieces of content, which you then can feed into AI and personalize absolutely everything else. Also, if you just want us to send it to you on LinkedIn, you can, in the comments, also comment starter, and we're going to send the starter pack over to you as soon as we can. If we do that today and are able to make that after the event, or if it's going to be by end of tomorrow, we're going to do the best to get it out to you guys. But that's another option to actually get this as well. So if you comment starter, we're going to go through this after the event and send it over. Now, the thing that we've covered so far is you need to have AI identify and help you build your ICP, the research on them, and your offer. Because you could do this manually, but this is a system that we built over the past decade. AI does the research. AI is able to do a lot of the things, but you are the one that is shaping the process. And that's the key. We use AI to draft the resources and posts, because when we have the ICP, we have what they think about their inner monologue, and we have our offer, we can create content derived from that is relevant, it's timely, and it's actually tangible and helpful. Because this is the thing that people have commented on. I've seen it time and time again. Doing the post on LinkedIn are cringe. It doesn't work, it's spammy. Something that is spammy but ultra valuable, is it really spammy? Or is the thing that makes something spammy and, let's say, frustrating and something that we get sick and tired of because it's not providing any value at all and it's not relevant? I would argue the latter. So we use AI to then draft all of the resources and the posts. We use AI to handle the comments. So ensuring that when someone comments on a post, you can actually have a way to handle them. You have AI to create the content that people then consume, that you retarget to them, that keeps them nurtured, keep them warm and engaged, and give them even more value. And use AI to check the engagement score and score leads, so that AI can then highlight leads that are ready. This is the core fundamental system. And one thing I wanted to show you guys is the flowchart for this, because there is a bit of a question on how does all of this look in practice. And I know this is a bit of a screenshot that it's a bit hard for you guys to see. I'm going to try to maximize this so that you guys can actually see more in detail. So top left, you have your outbound lead generation. That is basically 2 steps. It is reaching out and connecting with people on LinkedIn by using various means to identify your segment, finding the contacts and the people that you need to speak to. If they don't accept your connection request and engage with you on LinkedIn, you have an email follow-up. And this is going to be an email follow-up referring to LinkedIn. Like, hey, John, hey, Julie, I tried to connect with you on LinkedIn because I wanted to pass you something that I thought would be relevant since you're a sales manager in company X, Y, and Z. That's the outbound motion. The inbound motion has 2 entry points. You can do the post on LinkedIn, which is the thing that you can see just above the text inbound on the left side. And then under that is ads. But posting posts on LinkedIn is what drove us 65,000 leads and 180,000 comments last year. It works. The ads is a completely different way of doing this. The reason why we've included all 3 in here is simply due to the fact that you need to have a varied lead source. You need to have multiple ways of generating leads, because what happens if one of them dries up? What happens if one of them disappears? What happens if one platform change makes an entire strategy or tactic obsolete? I'll say one thing that is happening now with cold email is that Google inboxes, Microsoft inboxes, they're adding AI in between before the reader sees it or the recipient gets it, whether the AI then labels it as spam or not, or is it trying to pitch them or not. And they've had this for a while, but they've been rolling out an even more strict version for this lately. So if something like that happens, Are you standing on just one foot, or do you have multiple feet and things that makes you more stable? The thing here next is, that was going a bit too fast, is all of that is run to integration and your data layer. And this is basically where all your leads are stored in one place. If you're using a CRM, that's good, but it usually doesn't cut it. All of those leads are then passed on to the flywheel. And this is where you run emails and ads to retarget the leads, keep on providing value so that they over time grow a level of fondness. You get to a level of familiarity, you build a certain level of trust, and they can engage. Every piece of communication you have links to a resource, and that's the key thing. You never pitch, you never sell, you never send them directly to a checkout page. You send them to something that is valuable. Since November 2024, we in Bureau have created 170 different educational pieces of value, either in the shape of a how-to tutorial, a live masterclass and webinar like this, to a tool that you can use for free. So we've had a lot of variety of different things that you can get, and of course, a lot of prompts. The key thing is you want to help your audience in one way or the other, and that's the resource. And it's the resource's task to build familiarity, build trust and credibility so that people reach out and book a call and get into your pipeline, together with scoring them and let's say flagging them or for your sales team to reach out. And that's the next step, which is you need a way to convert them and book them into a call. That's the flow chart. Again, if you want to learn more about this, you have the option to speak to us about this, but this is the map. And what we've talked about so far is the strategy behind it, it's the approach, it's the methodology. Trust and timing. You can't brute force it. You need to build it in a way where it loops. So the outcome of that is that you generate leads and you compound the results, and there's no more one-off campaigns. That is kind of like the thing that I need to make crystal clear. And yeah, Will, I know that this was super blurry in terms of the flow chart. We're also going to send over the flow chart to you guys after, so we're adding that into the pack. So everyone, if you want that comment starter or up in the chat, you will also see a link to go in and opt in to get that, and we're going to send that automatically out to you in about just shy of an hour from now. The second outcome of doing this properly is that you can spend less time on marketing, funnily enough, because once it's set up, it runs and it loops, and you can extract yourself out of it and no longer be the founder bottleneck for the growth of the company, because you have a system, you have the infrastructure. And also, what we mentioned is that if you do something that is one-off, like a campaign, you have a start time, you have an end time, what ends up happening if that doesn't convert within that time period, it's often discarded and counted as, okay, that didn't work. But most likely, the reason was that those leads weren't ready yet. By running this, you can convert them and make that tactic into something that actually performs. And you will have the backend system to really ensure that you build trust and ensure that timing is right. That's the outcome of doing this right. I would say out of the companies that I've spoken to, 99% doesn't have this. So if you have this, and if you do this right, the benefit is that you're going to have something none of your competitors have. And it's super easy. Like, you start playing the game on easy mode. That's the big difference. And that's a big claim, I know. But when no one has it, there's not a lot of things that needs to be done to really make a huge impact. One thing I actually want to show you guys, and that is what I went through in terms of the starter pack. So the ICP, the audience research, the offer memo, and also what Lindsay talked about in terms of content creation based on this. We've built an internal proprietary tool that I just want to show you in terms of how we use that content starter pack to go about creating the things that we need to create to fuel all of these things. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and actually show this. And this is going to not be just going to be a blurry one, but it's going to be me actually going through and showing you guys. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on this so that we don't stretch this out into spending too much time on it. So here we go. So remember how we talked about the audience definition and the offer memo. So what we have is that we always start with a context node. And the context node takes the target audience, so that's the ICP mapping report, and the audience research, and the offer and definition. And we can add in more things here in terms of additional things about the company and brand, or even more additional context. So that's the first thing that we start with. The next thing that we do based on this is that we can then define a writing voice. So we can define, how do we actually write and communicate? So if I have, let's say, I have a long guide called Gravity Marketing, I have another guide called B2B in the Age of AI, and several others. If I take that, I can distill my writing style so that AI communicates and writes like me. So that's kind of like the baseline. The next based on this is that I can generate a content pillar. The content pillar is really, what is it that I'm creating content around? So we have a lot of different things, but in the example here is pipeline without the marketing team. I think that's really the promise of this entire session, is that how can you as a founder or a small company do what the larger company with a huge marketing team were previously able to do? How can you do the same? And that is building pipeline without a huge marketing team. So for content pillars is basically what is it that you write and create content around. Under that content pillar, we can create a lead magnet. And the lead magnet is some sort of educational piece of value, something that is valuable. And that could be a tutorial, it could be a playbook, it could be a video, it could be a live masterclass, a webinar, a checklist, a template, a prompt, a tool. It can have a lot of different shapes and forms. But the essence is you need to have a lead magnet. And in here, we then are able to create more assets. We're able to create a landing page, a quiz for it, a LinkedIn post for it, where I can go in here, I can automatically draft this post, and I can go ahead and schedule this to LinkedIn automatically, saying, okay, this is how I want to handle when people comment on it. So I want to automatically create a campaign for this, that when people comment, I'm going to reply with this. When people comment that are not in my connections, I'm going to reply with this. And all of that happens automatically, and I can just hit schedule post. I can draft my emails, so I can have emails for this automatically created. And all of this is what we use and derive from those three things that we touched upon, which is the map your ICP, do a deeper research on them, and identify your offer. Because when you have those, you can derive from those everything else that you need to have to be able to run the marketing at a larger scale. And this is just a visualized canvas for the sake of this session, but this can be having like hundreds of guides in it, hundreds of posts. And that is how we were able to run the volume of 1,250 posts last year with just 2 people in marketing. And that's it. So that's the thing that I just quickly wanted to show, because you don't need a huge team. You just need to have a proper system to it. You need your core details, and then you need to use AI and use that in a way that is smart. So I see a lot of people are commenting starter. So there's a lot of people of you guys that wants the resources after. So we're going to do our best to get it out to all of you guys. If it takes some time, please be patient with us, because there's a lot of you that wants it. So which we appreciate, and we hope that you will find value in it. Next up is, if you're curious about how we do this for companies, there are really 2 ways. Like, we'll build it for you, the entire thing, or we can teach you how to do it yourself. But there's one new thing that we're actually doing now, and that is we're adding a bit of a subscription to building it for you. Because previously, you pay us up to $22,000 to build the entire thing, but we're now launching a bit of a subscription where we're setting up everything on our systems and we run it for you. That is something that is brand spanking new. We're talking to the first companies about this week, and we wanted to open that up for you guys on this session, just mentioning it, that okay, that is one thing that we're doing. So if anything of what we've discussed so far today is something that feels like the missing piece, okay, I'm thinking about lead gen in this way, but there are things that are missing, or I am generating leads, but I'm not able to convert them. I have tried outbound, it hasn't performed. I have tried posting on LinkedIn and it didn't work. There's likely a thing that was missing. And if you feel that, okay, any of those cases, let's say, relate to you, or you feel that, okay, that's what I feel, we would like to invite you to a 30-minute audit session. That is like, there's no requirement whatsoever in terms of, okay, you need to commit with us. It's more, we want to give you that opportunity now as you've been part of this session to take a look at your company. And the purpose of that is we want to map out how should you do the lead gen, how should you do the trust flywheel, how should you do the audience expansion, how should you build all of this, and give you our recommendations. So basically trying to understand what's your company all about, who's your audience, what are you doing, what are the gaps, and what should you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link in the chat now where you can go ahead and you can schedule a call with Lindsay. So in that call, or when you click on that link, you will get a page similar to one on the left side where you can see a calendar. You can select the time that works with you, add in your details, add in a bit about your company, what you do, and you're going to be locked in. After that, you will get to a thank you page or confirmation page where you have a bit of a video with me saying thank you, and you will be able to add more context. Because if you book a call with us, we want you to submit more details, because we want to be able to gauge what is it that we think is the missing piece for you guys. And that gives us the ability to do some more homework and come prepared to that call, compared to if you just submitted no information and then we jumped on a call and we needed to spend a lot of time on figuring out what is it that you do, and that is not how you get the most out of that call. So if you go ahead and schedule a call now, what we're going to be able to do is that we're going to go through and give you that audit. One thing which I want to highlight is Lindsay can't speak to 100 people. So there will be limited spots. Last time we had an event like this, similar to this, all of our time got filled, and you had to book quite far out to be able to speak with us. But we want to give you guys time to actually speak to us now. So there should be time available in the calendar that you guys can book. And this, again, is us to give you recommendations based on everything that we talked about now, for you to learn more about certain things and give you the next steps that you should actually go through. And with that being said, that brings us to Q&A. So I think there's been a lot of questions that has come in the chat. I'm not sure if you've been following that, Lindsay.
Yeah, I've seen the chat. There have been some repeated questions asking for the recording. Yes, the replay is going to be available. It is going to be there with the bonuses, the link that Harold has just posted. So you will see that there in time. So I want to assure people, some joined late and some had to leave early. So yes, the recording will be available.
Gotcha. But there's a lot of people that commented starters, so you guys are going to be able to get that. And also, as mentioned, there's a lot of comments for starters, so we're going to do our best to get back to you guys as quickly as possible. But let's see if there are any questions in the chat. Like, again, if you have any questions, please, in the chat, fill them out, because we are going to have that time to go through and answer any questions that you guys might have regarding the system, regarding the strategy, give you suggestions really on the spot now in terms of, okay, this is what you do, this is what you've tried, why haven't it worked, these types of things. So really nothing is off the table in terms of the Q&A now. We're going to stick around for some time so that you guys can both listen to this and get your questions answered. So let's see. So I think we have the first one. Sebastian, what tools do you use to manage this system at Bureau? So there are two ways I want to answer that, Sebastian. First off, we have our own in-house proprietary system that we built. We've really gone hard on AI for the past 4.5 years. It was way before ChatGPT was a thing. So since GPT-3 was launched, we built internal systems for it. That's one, but we still do rely on other systems. So we do have Get Sales. That's one of the automation tools we use for LinkedIn. We have Lead Shark, which is the automation tool we use to handle comments on posts on LinkedIn. And then, of course, we have Encharge, which is the email automation system that we use. What I'm gonna do, just again, you can confirm that, Sebastian. If you want me to send the links to all of those in the chat, I can do that as well. Just confirm with yes, and I'm gonna find the links and send that in the chat for you guys. So I hope this answered the question. We got another one. Mark, is there provided info sent to ChatGPT? So there's a confidentiality issue. Just to confirm that I understand your question correctly, Mark, is it whether if you share confidential information to ChatGPT that it remains confidential, or if it's shared with OpenAI and used for training? Just want to ask that question to understand that I understand you correctly.
I'm seeing yes. So I think that some people were hoping for the links that you mentioned when you answered Sebastian's
Okay, yeah.
question.
All right.
With Mark, I think he might be referring to the ICP prompt. So the information that you put into the ICP prompt, which we created in ChatGPT, that's hopefully not confidential information, like who you're targeting, who your customers could be. That yeah. So I don't think that there is an issue there. If there's other information that you would consider confidential, then yeah, I would keep that outside of ChatGPT.
Yeah, the second point. I think the ultimate thing is you don't want to really share confidential information with ChatGPT. You don't really want to share any confidential information with any AI, either through ChatGPT interface or through the API. Okay, yeah, so the competition could not see it if you were to send your details about your business to ChatGPT. That's not how it works. The way that it would work is if you send details about your company to ChatGPT, is that OpenAI might train their next version of ChatGPT based on what the conversation has been with you and it, but it's not really shared. If you're talking about confidential information, you don't really want to send any of that to ChatGPT or any LLM altogether. If you want to do that, you want to run a open source large language model on your own devices, because then it's not sent anywhere. Even with the API, it's sent to OpenAI. They say that it's not trained or used, but it's still going to be people that have access to those records and those logs. So just if you have truly confidential information that rarely is shared externally in the company, like never, just be a bit aware of that. So I think we have a question from, again, Sebastian. Got it, thanks. I was wondering specifically about the system that monitors leads engagement, cold, warm, hot. Is that part built internally by Bureau? So it's partial, Sebastian. One part of that is what we have internally. The other part of that is using Encharge, which I've linked up above, which is the email automation tool that we have, which is usually responsible for the initial segmentation of those leads into those three buckets. So that's a system that fuels it, but we add more context from our own systems to it to really have an accurate double tracking of it. Rafal, hey Harold, would this system work on any AI? Perplexity. So the way, if you think about, so there are two ways. If you're thinking about the canvas that I went through in terms of the content pillars, the lead magnets, stuff like that, that is agnostic. That can use any LLM. And the reason is because that's connected to OpenRouter, which has any LLM on it. If you're talking about using the prompts, so basically the ICP mapper, the audience researcher, and the offer memo, you can go to Perplexity and just use that in the Perplexity AI chat. That's not a problem. You don't need to just use ChatGPT, but then it would be a bit of a question to the prompt that you were to use to find your ICP and map your ICP based on your offering. So we try to be agnostic in the tools that we build for the LLMs. Marcus, you got to go. That's fine. Appreciate that you liked it and happy that you found it insightful. Caroline, isn't LinkedIn limited to 100 leads per week? So when it comes to LinkedIn, and I assume that you're asking about outbound, so sending outbound connection requests and doing that, you can safely today, if you have Sales Navigator, send up to 800 connection requests a month. That is the limit that we've seen. I would not recommend go completely crazy and send 800. I would probably say you can send 600, because then you still have some buffer to send more. Because if you are already sending outbound, you're connecting with people, maybe you're connecting with the associate and members in your team or your company that you're in, you want to have leeway to do those things. And also maxing LinkedIn is not necessarily the best way of doing it. And I've done that since 2016. Back then, you can send 100 connection requests a day, so 3,000 a month. That has gone down and down and down and down. But now what we see is that 800 is the metric, and that has not been an issue for any client that we worked with or any company or client that we advised. So that is what I would say. Again, the thing that you need to think of is you need to ramp it up. You need to warm up your profile. Because if you're thinking about an X and Y axis, if your account suddenly spikes to sending max volume, that is going to be a bit of a red flag to LinkedIn. Or like, okay, what's up? This is botting. So you just want to avoid that. But yeah, you can go above 100 a week.
I saw that Anaruda had a question. I just wanted to address that. He was asking for something simple, like a simple roadmap for a beginner. And I'm not sure if he saw the flow chart that you had up, but Harold is going to share that as part of the bonuses. And that is something that if you're just a beginner, you want a process to follow, that would be the recommended roadmap and process that we would recommend.
Yeah. I'm just going to very, very quickly go back to that, Anaruda. So let's see. Here you go. It's super blurry. I know that. I'm going to put it up on the big screen. So basically, it's hard to say, okay, what your company specifically should start with, but you need to have outbound, that is LinkedIn and email follow-up. You want to have inbound, which is posting valuable posts on LinkedIn, and you want to get to running ads to generate leads. Those are the three main lead generation activities that you have. What order you should do these? We would need to speak to you. So we would need to do an audit and give you our recommendations to really pinpoint what's best for you. But that's the lead generation. Next is you want to pass all of those leads into a database, save them, so that you then can nurture them on email. So basically sending people more valuable stuff on email and run retargeting on ads, really. So Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, and LinkedIn if you want to do that as well. The order that I typically recommend is if you're targeting B2B, start with outbound. So outbound on LinkedIn, just get that up and running, and then that is going to go. Then create the content to nurture the leads that you then are going to get on email specifically. Then you start posting on LinkedIn. Then you add your retargeting ads. And after that, I would add in the ads to run to generate leads just directly from ads. That's usually a order. But then again, I would not say that's the correct way of doing it. That is one scenario. To really figure out what is best for you, it would be to actually go through and identify what's the case with your company specifically. Rodney, using OpenRouter is great. That if at some point you need to change LLM you are using because it's now better than the better one to use. Yeah, I agree, Rodney, in terms of OpenRouter is amazing because you can just switch. Like you have the versatility, you have the flexibility. That's also something that we have in the canvas. You can just go to setting, and then you can just go in and change the LLM that is used. Let's see. Dr. Christian, what's your experience with amount of messages per day, week, month on LinkedIn? I think I partially answered this already. What I typically have on is something along the lines of sending 30 connection requests every single working day. So I'm having pause on Saturday and Sundays. A lot of people say just send during those days as well because people are still active on LinkedIn, but I usually don't. So 30 Monday to Friday. And usually a month is about 22 working days, meaning that you send 660 connection requests a month. That is what I see on connection requests. On DMs, so direct messages, I would say stay below 150 a day, simply due to the fact that if you send more than that, you're starting to stretch it a bit. And then for comments, I would say never go above something like 100, 150 a day on that either. The one thing I would highly advise against, don't use AI to automatically write comments on someone's posts. It comes off by default. I get them all the time. They're horrible. Just don't do that. If you are going to comment on someone's posts, do that manually. Please just don't create AI slop, because those AI commenting systems are usually very, very, very bad. Let's see. If you guys have any more questions, again, you can just shoot them in the chat, and we are going to go through them. If we don't get too many more yet, then we might wrap up in not too long from now. But one thing I'm going to leave in the chat now as well, it is on the screen in terms of booking your audit. I'm just going to leave the chat in the chat again. Like, if you want to speak to us and get an audit on how you should implement, or how you could implement everything that we talked about in this live masterclass, you can schedule a call with Lindsay, and you guys are going to go through. And I can say this, you're in good hands. It doesn't look like anyone else have any comments or questions. Were there anyone previously, like earlier in the session, Lindsay, that you took note of?
No, I think that I was taking notes, and it looked like we got to all of them.
Gotcha. Let's see. There are still a couple of people sticking around. So anyone of you sticking around, do you have any questions that you want to get answered? Because now you have the time. Now you have the chance. I'm just scrolling up and looking if there's any. Let's see. If you were to summarize everything, if you were to summarize everything in 2 minutes, it would be great for everyone. All right. So first, when you design your go-to-market strategy, you want it to take account for building trust with your audience and ensuring that you hit them up on the right time. Right timing doesn't mean that you're selective to who you generate as leads. So those are kind of like, have those in the back of your mind. The second thing is you want to generate leads in different ways. Outbound on LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn, or running paid ads. I would not recommend running just pure cold emails. When you reach outbound on LinkedIn, what you want to do is you want to lead with value first. We didn't really go too much into that. So you guys sticking around, you getting the source to LinkedIn outbound now. Previously, you could pitch. Everyone can pitch now. Everyone hates it. Don't do it. The second one is ask a question. But what people often do is that they ask a question, get a response, and then pitch. So don't do that. The thing that is good is just leave someone with value. So knock the door, give them a resource, hope you like it, and then step back. Because the purpose of lead gen is bringing them into your retargeting. So when you get a lead, you want to follow them up on email and show them ads so that you can keep giving them value. And you have a system that then tracks what they engage with, what they click on, what they open, what they consume. That scores them. And by scoring them, you can follow up those that are most engaged, because those you will have a far better conversion rate with, instead of wasting your time on absolutely everyone equally. And I think that's the core essence. Build trust in a way where you don't spam them, just pitching them all day. Give them value. Have multiple channels to get your leads, and send everyone into a looping flow of retargeting on email and ads so that they can consume more. Let them engage, and by engaging, you score them, and then you follow up. And I think that is the the short summary. If that was 2 minutes or if that was a bit more, I'm not sure, but that's the essence. Caroline, I need to go back to replay for my phone. It wasn't great. My struggles are getting leads and then engaging conversations. So the key thing in terms of lead gen, Caroline, is by running outbound, if you were to do that with, let's say, multiple profiles, so let's say that you have a couple of other people in the company that you can run it with, I would recommend doing that. So if you have 3, that's good. If we then take the baseline and saying you send 600 connection requests a month per, that gives you 1,800 that you can send a month. What we see is that if you have a just basic average conversion rate, you get about 20% to accept. That will give you 360 leads or connections a month. The question then is, how many of those can you bring into retargeting? How many can you show things to? And over time, 360 turns to 720, 720 compounds, and then in the next 6 months, you're going to have a couple of thousand people in the email system and in the nurturing that you have. So several thousand people are hit up by your marketing every single day and every single week, and that is going to compound and turn into more pipeline for you. And that is what's going to crack the problem with lead gen, but also conversions and conversations over time. So hopefully you're still on, and I love that you want to keep going back and watch the replay on your device or your desktop so that you can see a bit of a larger screen. But that's the key thing that I would then recommend for you. How to do this? Again, you can speak to us and get more hands-on recommendations for that. Sebastian, I'm going to do this as the final question of the session. What's your opinion on Clay? From what I hear, you're not using it. I'm not using it. That is not the thing that I do. There's a huge argument of using Clay or not. The question is, what does the function that Clay does? The thing that Clay does is that you're paying a premium of just ease of life. Everything that Clay does, you can do either in N8N, you can use Cursor or Claude Code or Claude Cowork to execute the same function. We are building a lot of in-house tools. And one of the things that we see Clay doing is filtering and building lists. We've built an internal matching algorithm that is not using LLMs to say, okay, how qualified is this lead? We're using something that is way better than that to take a huge list of leads, churn them through, and are able to segment leads on a way more detail than what you can in Clay. And that is just replacing the entire need for us to pay several $100, maybe $1,000 a month just on Clay itself as a subscription without all of the other tools that you need to use. So for me and for us, I see it as a bit of a unnecessary thing, but there are a lot of companies that use it and it's warranted, but it depends on the case. And this, again, as I mentioned, the strategy, the flow chart, everything that we talked about in this masterclass, how you would implement it and how you would use the existing tools that are out there, that depends. It's a bit of case by case. And that's why we extend the offer of having a audit with us to give you the recommendations on how we see it based on your company. So I think that's the way I would answer it. And I don't have it on the agenda to start using Clay either. But if you're using it, I don't judge you. Like, if you do it and you find value in it, amazing. That's the most important thing. Like, to build the things that you want to build, there's not one way of doing it. What we have seen is that there's a quick way, there's a roundabout way, and there are a lot of unnecessary parts that you can pick up and try to bring with you. Not saying necessarily that Clay is one of those, but it depends, again, how you build it from scratch. So with that, I think we are going to wrap it up. I assume a couple of you guys have booked a call to go through and get your audits. I promise you're going to get value from that. And I think with that, let's remove this and like this, say, thank you so much for showing up. Both of us, we hope that you find value in it and that you left this with a couple of new ideas for how you can do an approach your go-to-market, how you can think of replacing the typical outbound, and how you can take the step in making your lead generation work, and also how to nurture them and get trust and timing right. So thank you all for showing up. And we wish you a great rest of your day. And for everyone that opted in on the page, you're going to get the starter pack in about 30 minutes, or no, actually 20 minutes. So not too long. So you can grab something to drink, bring out your notepad, put on some glasses, and get ready for it. But with that, let's wrap it up. And we wish you all a great rest of your day. And we will see you guys probably in a couple of weeks on another session like this. Bye-bye, everyone.